Let me start with a quick self-introduction. I previously worked at Huawei as an R&D product manager. Lately, I've been focusing on digital product planning and design. I got my certification in 2020. I initially learned TOGAF to design a middle platform. My boss asked me to outline our product's competitive edge. In a single diagram, I understood our product's strengths, but couldn't figure out how to present them. This led me to study middle platform architecture design in depth. Eventually, I discovered TOGAF. After diving into TOGAF, I found it to be an excellent. So today, I will share some tips on preparing for the TOGAF exam. But first, to help those new to TOGAF, let me quickly introduce the Open Group. The Open Group manages TOGAF and oversees various standard certification exams. Besides TOGAF, there's also Archimage, RT4IT, Digital Practitioner. These multiple standards offer various certifications and exams. TOGAF is an enterprise architecture framework. It originated from a U.S. Department of Defense IT framework. Later, the DoD, or U.S. military, handed this framework over to a company called OpenGraph. It continues to be developed and shared, becoming a universal reference for enterprise architecture standards. TOGAF now boasts over 800 member organizations. It's worth noting that TOGAF is an enterprise architecture framework. It's not the only one in the field. However, its industry presence is significant, with over 800 strategic members and more than 100,000 certified practitioners. TOGAF holds nearly 60% of the enterprise architecture market share. It's fair to say that TOGAF has essentially become the industry standard for enterprise architecture. So if you're looking to study enterprise architecture, you should focus on TOGAF first. This naturally includes prioritizing the TOGAF certification exam. OpenClub offers two types of certifications. The first is the knowledge-based certification we'll discuss today. This certification, in simple terms, you need to go through a learning and training process. Then, you take an exam. Finally, you obtain the certificate. Now, for the other type of certification, it's based on your professional background. To get this certification, you need to submit your resume or evidence of your work experience. An expert committee then evaluates your submission. If approved, they issue you the certificate. This is what we call experience-based certification. As I haven't been involved in this, I'm afraid I can't offer you much more information about it or answer your questions in detail. Today, we'll be focusing on introducing TOGAF's knowledge-based certification system. TOGAF's knowledge-based certification encompasses several different areas. The core, of course, is TOGAF Enterprise Architecture Certification. In addition to this, over the past couple of years, business architecture has also become quite popular. Business architecture. For those of you familiar with enterprise architecture, you'll know that it's divided into 4 main domains: business architecture, application architecture, data architecture, and technology architecture. Now, business architecture is a core domain in enterprise architecture. Over the past year or so, as people have gained a deeper understanding of business and its intricacies, now, about business architecture, it's getting more and more attention. In fact, you could say that business architecture is the soul of enterprise architecture, or its core component, if you will. Now, apart from Taobao and business architecture certification, there are also specialized certifications in areas like integration, distribution, and security. These might be better suited for our colleagues working in risk management. Now, regarding Taobao Certification 1312-2018, it was actually created for backward compatibility. It's a certification from before Taobao version 9.2 to support Taobao 9 and maintain compatibility with older versions. They introduced this new certification 13th December 2018. Currently, this certification is essentially obsolete and can be ignored. It's just a remnant from previous versions. Besides these certifications, Taobao's portfolio also includes IT for IT. Now, IT for IT is an operational model for our business functions. It's a value-based approach to managing IT activities. If you're familiar with ITIL, you can think of IT for IT as an upgraded version of ITIL. It's designed for the digital era. We've made some specific enhancements to optimize it. It's a certification for digital practitioners. These digital practitioners are particularly suited for those working in data governance, data architecture, and data science fields. It's ideal for professionals in these positions who want to take the exam. ARCHIM. ARCHIM is a tool for enterprise architecture that provides visual modeling capabilities. And the best part, it's completely free. This powerful modeling tool, of course, it's not the only one out there. There are actually many similar tools available. But I strongly recommend that you learn ARCHIM. Here's why. First, it's officially endorsed by industry experts. Second, as mentioned, it's free to use. And third, it offers comprehensive coverage of the entire modeling process. Let's talk about a powerful tool for enterprise architecture modeling. For instance, you might be familiar with a modeling tool such as MIMO. However, MIMO is limited to system and application levels. It can't model anything beyond these levels. On the contrary, ARCHIM can start from the strategic level and cover business, data, and technology aspects. In essence, it seamlessly integrates the entire process, serving as a comprehensive modeling and visualization tool. So, if you already learned about following the TOGAF framework, whether or not you plan to pursue ARCHIM certification, it's valuable to learn this modeling language. PRIOC. Methodology for classification and analysis. Ideal for professionals in analysis and control management. It's great for those looking to take related exams. The target audience is primarily entrepreneurs and business professionals. These professionals involved in architectural design, including engineers and architects, such as our enterprise architects, essentially encompass a wide range of specialized engineers, business architects, security architects, system architects, data architects, and solutions architects, IT architecture specialists. These specialized roles TOGAF is an enterprise architecture framework. It's a universal standard. This standard is extremely abstract in nature. As a result, TOGAF doesn't focus on any specific industry or domain-specific concepts. This means that, in principle, it's applicable to all industries and domains. When it comes to SaaS, TOGAF enterprise architecture is geared towards larger organizations, including governments, conglomerates, public companies, mass and post-merger entities, major corporate partnerships. These sizable corporations, for SMEs, aren't as relevant. Now, about taking the TOGAF exam. There are reasons. Let's look at a few key ones. Most people, some might, take it for job hunting. In enterprise architecture, business architecture positions are still relatively rare. You could almost say they're few and far between. However, we've noticed a steady increase in this trend, particularly in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangdong, and Hangzhou. The number of such cities continues to grow annually. Therefore, if you're job hunting, you should consider whether the position is sufficiently appealing. From a job seeker's perspective, most companies' enterprise architecture requires mastering some TOGAF fundamentals. Ideally, you have a TOGAF certification. If your career path aligns with this field, getting this certification is highly recommended. On the other hand, for job seekers, let's now consider capability and personal skill development. Let's examine, first and foremost, regardless of what type of architect you are, you must understand the company and its operations. TOGAF, in this context, serves as this enterprise architecture framework, acts as a magnifying glass for the organization, enabling you to visualize all crucial operational components of the business and how they all interconnect. It's an excellent tool for understanding the business and its operations. As a comprehensive blueprint, it helps you sketch out this detailed plan. Moreover, it aids in developing an architectural mindset. For an architect, this way of thinking is at the heart of architecture. It's all about classification and hierarchy. You see, to simplify things, we typically categorize and create layers. This approach separates responsibilities. Here's a simple example. Our PCP engineers handle the front end, while TOGAF engineers manage the back end. This is about separating duties, letting experts do what they do best. It's the most basic way to categorize things. This concept of layering. Models. Thinking in models. This is what we often need to convey. When we have this kind of architecture, we need to use an abstract model to represent it. Now, it's still about simplifying things. Let's consider an example. Here's one to illustrate. In today's world, we might classify people into two groups: those who've embraced Western culture, and those who haven't. See what I mean? This is a basic example of conceptual modeling. Get it? A model's primary purpose is to simplify understanding and facilitate expression. It's not about perfect replication. The real world In fact, it often serves to separate different aspects. When examining a model like yours, we consider its target audience and their main concerns. We typically view this from the angle of key concerns. The final point is communication. Communication issues. In fact, within companies, it's extremely common. Our marketing communication, product tech communication, product market communication. These gaps are actually quite prevalent. Well, there are reasons. In fact, there are two main reasons. First, it's as if everyone's from different worlds. You see, or as they say, your position shapes your perspective. Each approach can be quite different. Sometimes it's about conflicting interests. Different stakeholders have different interests at play. All these factors create communication challenges. That's where enterprise architecture comes in, offering an excellent framework for addressing these communication issues. It provides methods, tools, and terminology to create a solid foundation for effective communication. For instance, he introduced the concept of perspective. You see, when it comes to communication, the goal isn't to merge everyone's views into a single, uniform perspective. Instead, we should start by considering the other person's point of view, focusing on their concerns, and using those concerns to connect with the aspects they need to consider. This forms their unique stakeholder perspective, or what we might call their interest landscape. This is a fundamental principle of his approach. He believes that effective communication isn't about finding a universal language or terminology. Instead, it's about adopting a flexible approach that adapts to each individual. Using a single framework, but employing different methods to convey the same message. It's okay if they don't understand me, as long as I can understand them. This supports the core principle of effective communication. Of course, there's more to consider. So, what's the exam for? It's to join this structured community, a network for sharing and learning. Now, let's move on. First, let's discuss this. Discussion 10 has already been released, and now the exams for 9 and 10 are running simultaneously. Let's start by introducing the exam topics for Discussion 9. For the Discussion 9 exam, it's actually split into two levels. We call one of them the basic level. The other is the certification level. You can only obtain certification by passing the certification level exam. Now, for the basic level, the exam only consists of multiple choice questions. You choose one out of 4 options. In other words, it's a single choice format. There are either 4 or 5 options to choose from. It's a single choice question. Again, it's a single choice question. There are 4 questions in total. You need to answer 2 of them correctly. That's a 50% passing rate. That's enough to pass the test. Now, about the certification level. It's basically a scenario analysis. Each scenario has 4 possible answers. There are 8 scenarios in total. Each is worth 5 points. The maximum score is 5. There are 4 answer choices. For these 4 options, the top answer is worth 5 points. The next best is 3 points. And the third option is 1 point. If you pick the wrong answer, you get 0. So, 60% correct wasn't enough to pass. There were 8 questions in total. So let's break down the scoring. You need to score 3 points on average per question to pass. So for each question, your aim is to pick at least the second best option. Second best answer. Let's say each question has a target. If you can find the second best answer, you're good. This past April, TOGAF released its latest version, TOGAF10. Then, later this year, they released the TOGAF program offers a multi-tiered examination system, which incorporates the existing TOGAF9 certification, including its original Level 1 and 2. Additionally, building on this foundation, the TOGAF10 framework introduces new enterprise architecture certifications for Level 1 and 2 practitioners, as well as a foundational level in architecture. In other words, there's a Level 1 certification exam. Wow! For enterprise architecture, Levels 1 and 2 correspond to TOGAF9 Levels 1 and 2. But the content is based on the latest TOGAF10 framework. Regarding the levels, Enterprise Architecture Level 1 corresponds to the original TOGAF Level 1, while Enterprise Architecture Level 2 is equivalent to the former TOGAF Level 2. There's also a bridge certification here. TOGAF9 includes a bridge certification at the end. What does this mean? Well, this is for compatibility purposes. If you already obtained a TOGAF9 certification, which is a professional level credential, it's still valid, of course. The TOGAF9 certification remains valid. However, to demonstrate your proficiency in TOGAF10, if you're interested in proving that, to prove you mastered TOGAF10, you'll need to take an enterprise architecture bridging exam. It's called the bridge exam in English. This is like applying a patch to upgrade your enterprise architecture. Expertise. So this bridge exam transitions you from TOGAF9 Level 2. Applied a patch, upgraded to TOGAF10's Level 2. It serves exactly that purpose. As for TOGAF10, wow, based on current information, after the new version's release, the exam has been shortened. This covers the exam content for TOGAF9 and TOGAF10. It's clear that the current new year, there's a new exam system for industry professionals. The other day, I checked out the TOGAF10 practice questions. Regarding the practice questions, the types of questions seem a bit easier than TOGAF9. So if you're new to TOGAF, you should go straight for the TOGAF certification. Specifically TOGAF10, which is the EA certification, or the Business Architecture certification. There's only one case where you should consider taking the TOGAF9 certification. This applies if you're already about to take the exam. In that case, just go for the Level 2 exam. You don't need to learn the new TOGAF10 system. Just take. Since you already studied TOGAF9, you can go straight for the TOGAF9 certification exam. It's more efficient this way. You can think of it as equivalent. TOGAF9 and 10. As for this new exam you mentioned, on one hand, it keeps the original TOGAF9 pathway from foundation to certification. This certification track is designed to be compatible with the previous certification system. The original certification is still available, while the new addition is the Business Architecture certification. There's also a certification for Enterprise Architecture. So, you're interested in architecture. Currently, there's just one level. It's the foundational level. This Level 1 is actually a specialized course. You don't have to start from scratch. You have options. You can take the Level 1 course, in BA's Level 1 specialization. Then take the foundational exam. Or go straight for the foundational exam. As for enterprise architecture, in other words, the EA certification, regarding the certification, if you're a beginner, you can simply take the EA Level 1 exam, or the Level 2 exam, or both at once. That's all you need to do. Now, for those of you who already have the TG9 certification, if you're interested in learning about the TG10 updates as well, and want to prove your proficiency or earn the certification, you can take the TG10 Enterprise Architecture Bridging exam. This exam is essentially a way to get the latest TG10 based certification, this Level 2 certification. Regarding 10's certification exam, 10's recommendation is, if you're working in enterprise architecture, in this area of design, for instance, if you're an enterprise architect, or a solutions architect, or a tech manager, or even a consultant, in these roles, you should seriously consider taking this exam. Let's talk about enterprise architecture certification. If you're interested in this field, especially in becoming a business architect, this is particularly relevant if you're someone with a technical background, like a system architect, or an IT architect. If you want to boost your business skills and architecture design expertise, you should consider taking the annual architecture certification exam. This is also relevant for those in product management, architecture, product manager, product architecture design. If you're application architecture, you work in application architecture design, then you might want to consider taking the annual architecture certification exam. As for the top 9 certification, it's currently actually meant to be compatible with older versions and exists as a historical legacy. There's one exception, though. You can take the certification exam. This means if you already studied the top 9 standard, you can go straight to taking the top 9 exam. Now, about specializations. Specializations are focused on specific areas, including our specialized tracks, our digital expert programs, and our agile methodologies. Now, if you specialize in a particular area and consider yourself an expert in that field, you can take our top 9 specialized exams in these fields. For the top 9 exams, let's start with what you need to do first. Visit the official top 9 website or the Pearson VUE platform. There's a website called Pearson VUE. It's an organization specializing in managing and administering exams. They handle various certification tests. As a testing service provider, you can go through Pearson VUE to schedule your exam. You can use the Open Group's website. The website I'm referring to is this specific one. It's not the global version, the GAIJI official website. We're not talking about the Chinese version. It's the global website. First, register an account on the website. Fill in your personal details. Then, provide your information. In a moment, I'll explain how to complete this. Now, let's book your exam. Here's how to do it. Choose your subject. 2. Pick a time and place. 3. Pay the fee. Once you've paid, that's pretty much it. You're all signed up. Then, when the day arrives, just head to your chosen location and take the exam. Now, about this exam, I'm going to walk you through the registration process. Let's start with this. The certification and registration process is pretty straightforward. We'll skip the Taobao part for now. Once you're certified and registered, you'll need to provide your personal details. Now, about these details. Everything needs to be in English. This includes your name, home address, and email address. Double-check your name and email carefully. Don't make any mistakes here. All exam notifications and results will be emailed to you. So, the email is crucial. And your name. Your name will be on the certificate. So double-check your name too. For your name, you can use your English name, or the pinyin of your Chinese name. The registration button is at the very bottom of the form. It's easy to miss, so keep an eye out. I'll show you where it is in a moment. Let me show you where to find the registration link. It's located at the very bottom of the page. Now, when you're registering for the exam, there are a few steps to follow. First, choose your exam subject. You'll need to decide between Top 9 and Top 10. Top 10 covers enterprise and business architecture, as we just discussed. Next, select the exam type. This includes choosing the difficulty level. You can opt for either level 1 or level 2. Keep in mind, you can actually take both level 1 and 2 simultaneously. Next step is picking a language. Each certification exam offers multiple language options. Now, here's the thing. The Top 10 certification is brand new, so right now it's only available in English and French. Chinese isn't an option yet. But don't worry, Top 9 does have a Chinese version. I'm pretty sure that by early next year, or the first half at the latest, they'll roll out a Chinese version of the Top 10 exam. If your English skills aren't strong, and you want to take the Top 10 certification exam, you might consider waiting until the official Chinese exam is available, and then take the test. After choosing your subject, the next step is to pick a location. For exam venues, there are multiple options in most cities, particularly in major cities, where you'll have several choices. Take Shenzhen, where Tang lives, for example. He has about 5 test centers to choose from. You simply choose the one closest to you. If you're in a smaller city, pick the nearest center. With convenient transportation, the system clearly shows the distance from your current location. Next, you choose the time. The date and year are pretty straightforward. It's the exact time we need to focus on. Now, try to use the 24-hour format. That means using a full 24-hour clock for expressing time. If you use the 12-hour system, people might interpret AM and PM differently, which can lead to confusion. So, avoid using the 12-hour format. Stick to the 24-hour system instead. This eliminates any potential misunderstandings. So, go with the 24-hour format. Time zone. Next, let's focus on the time zone setting. You'll see a default time zone already set. This default is typically based on your test center location. The system confirms a time zone for you. Now, about this time zone. You can change it if needed. For instance, if you're taking the exam in China, it'll be set to CST for Shanghai. Once you've chosen the time and location, you'll move on to payment. Now, about payment. The official payment options currently available are limited to credit cards only, specifically Visa or MasterCard. At the moment, other payment methods aren't accepted. Once you've registered, you're all set to, when the day comes, take the exam at the scheduled time. On exam day, make sure to arrive early at the venue. Now, due to the limited facilities at some test centers, many exams are held at training institutions. These places often have limited space for exams. Once inside, you'll find yourself in a tiny cubicle with just a single computer. As a result, the environment can be quite uncomfortable. Try to adapt to these conditions. Take a moment to calm your nerves. During the exam, besides your ID card, you'll need a second form of ID. This can be your passport, or other options like a driver's license, or even a credit card. During the exam, you'll have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush. Take your time, be thorough, and answer thoughtfully. You'll have plenty of time to complete your answers, and even do a thorough review. There's more than enough time. Now, about the translations. Sometimes the translations might not be official, as they're not always provided by authorities. So you'll need to, but you should still be able to grasp the questions in hand. Regarding the translations, even if the terms differ from what you're used to, you should still be able to understand them. One more thing about the exam. When you're unsure about something, if you're uncertain about an answer, you can start by choosing an answer you feel most confident about. Pick what you think is right. Then mark the question for review. Once you finish the test, go back and concentrate on the questions you marked earlier. There's a specific button for marking these questions. You can mark your problem like this. Regarding the makeup exam, if you first, consider the timing. The makeup exam comes first. If you need to wait at least a month before you can apply for it, usually you retake the subject you didn't pass. That's the one you'll retake. Now, if you didn't pass either of the two courses, I mean both of them, let's say course 1 and course 2, and you signed up for both at the same time, course 1, if you didn't pass course 2, you can still get a certificate for course 1. Then, a month later, you can retake course 2. If you signed up for both courses together, if you fail exchange 1, but pass exchange 2, you won't receive any certificate at this stage. However, a month later, if you manage to pass exchange 1, then you'll receive a certification of completion for exchange 2. Naturally, the worst case is failing both. In that case, you won't get any certificate whatsoever. You can retake up to 2 courses later. That's 2 chances. For this retake, the fees are usually similar to or slightly less than the original exam cost. You can check the official website for detailed information. Now, let's talk about test step. First off, there are 2 ways to prepare for test step. One is self-study. The other option is joining a training program. If you choose to self-study, here's TOGAF advice. First, read the guide. Check out the pocket guide. The guide covers the standards. Focus on the standards first, including his series of guides and pocket books. Then, start solving practice questions. You'll probably find that there are still some skills you haven't mastered. When this happens, go back and review the book. It's okay to repeat this several times. As the exam approaches, you should use the reference card directly. This reference card is essentially a summary of all the key information. Take this knowledge and especially focus on the deliverables for each phase, the steps involved in each phase, all of this stuff. These are probably essential exam topics. Review these flashcards a week before the exam. Going over them twice should be enough. The key points are reading the material, doing practice questions, memorizing flashcards. Throughout your study, you'll need this guide above all else. This includes the official standards. The official materials are only available in English. However, if you're planning to take the exam in Chinese, you'll need to get your hands on the Chinese version of these standards. These resources. Now, here's the thing. Runs an online community for architects, where he provides these Chinese documents. He actually used these Chinese materials when he took the exam himself. Tel's actually pretty good at English, having passed the advanced language test. However, to save time and avoid spending excessive effort on constantly trying to decipher the English content, he decided to translate everything into Chinese. He then took the exam in Chinese instead. Now, these translated materials, Tel has decided to share with everyone to help save you all some study time. Of course, you'll need to join Tel's architect community group first. In this group, besides these standards and guidelines, it also includes about a dozen resource sets curated by Tel. These can help you quickly grasp the concepts, especially when it comes to the more abstract knowledge. However, if you feel you need more guidance or find self-study challenging, you can join Tel's program. Tel offers specialized symbol courses for advanced learning. By listening to these courses twice at a faster speed, you can quickly absorb the key points and connect the concepts effectively. Let's look at this comprehensive knowledge system. It encompasses a vast body of knowledge and requires a more structured approach to learning and understanding. We've just covered the foundational level of the exam. Now, let's break it down. It's divided into several parts based on its structure and content areas. Each module is further divided into sections. For instance, there are core concepts, the ADM, and other key components, architectural views, architectural building blocks, reference models. These represent the core concepts of the framework. Enterprise continuum and architecture development method, ADM guidelines and architecture governance. These are the key areas we emphasize the most. We've just covered the basic questions. These are multiple choice questions with 4 or 5 options. There's only one correct answer. Compared to studying basic questions, this process of understanding knowledge and memorizing it is quite a process. Now, let's talk about scenario-based questions. These are included in the Level 2 exam. It consists of 8 questions. You get 90 minutes. Each question comes with 4 options, one of which is incorrect. The remaining 3 are correct, but to varying degrees. The best answer is worth 5 points. The second best answer is worth 3 points. Less accurate answers get fewer points. Next up, scenario analysis questions. He'll share some test-taking tips soon. As for multiple choice questions, they're pretty straightforward. You need to choose based on the information given in the question. Select the one correct answer, and you're done. At the evaluation stage, we typically encounter a common scenario. It usually involves a major U.S. agricultural corporation with diverse operations and a complex history. Typically, it's a conglomerate formed through acquisitions. The challenge is how to effectively integrate these various, using a structural approach between subsidiaries or business units to re-establish connections. Given this context, now to address the question. First, you need to have a basic understanding of this background. The most crucial part comes at the end. These sentences will mention. First, your role is typically that of an enterprise architect. And it may also mention this represents a specific phase in the architectural design process. For instance, it could be a. They'll typically specify which stage you're currently at. This is the nature of these scenario-based questions, which can be tricky to answer. First, you need to recognize the given context. So, with this type of question, you need to figure out which stage the tested concept relates to. In some cases, you first need to understand the general area the exam is focusing on. Naturally, identifying the correct stage. He mentioned that sometimes you'll get clear instructions. Now, let's consider. First, as he just said, there's something important. One of the 4 options is a distractor. Some options are simply wrong. When tackling these questions, start by eliminating the wrong answers. But how do we spot these wrong answers? Well, here's a useful tip. Wrong answers often contain major inconsistencies. So, what exactly contradicts his ideas? Let's think. We could probably use an example here. Some incorrect answers might outright state that it's related to a specific term like technology. Typically, you'd expect to see a technique, or a specific approach, or a method, or some kind of technology involved in the process. You might think of a technical solution, or consider a technological approach, or focus on a specific technology. However, when technology comes up, it's often a misguided approach. This is because enterprise architecture, while it does solve technical issues, is a framework that emerged. However, its scope had far exceeded its original technological dimensions. You'll understand this better as you study further. Architectural design now operates on a much higher level than the traditional 2-tier IT architecture you might be familiar with. It's at least 1 or 2 levels more complex. Therefore, if someone focuses solely on specific technologies or technical problem solving, typically, they're missing the point. This is because the scope of solutions extends far beyond mere technical issues. It's really about collaboration, how different organizations work together, and how various information architectures integrate, aligning business operations, These are the issues he tackles. Though the final implementation, naturally, it's all done via IT systems to put into practice. However, the issues he addresses aren't typically isolated. This is a crucial point that everyone should note. Once wrong answers are ruled out, how do we pinpoint the best possible solution? I've got some strategies for this too. Let me share a few tips with you. If any of you are planning to take the certification exam in the future, I'd be happy to help out. Feel free to follow me on WeChat and join my architect community. I'll be there to answer any questions you might have. Oh, and one more thing. Regarding the exam, if you opt for the Chinese version, the translations can be subpar at times, yet they're usually comprehensible. A single term might have various similar ways of expression. For instance, architecture is often translated as system architecture. Architecture panorama becomes architecture landscape. Architecture continuum, sometimes architecture continuous series, or architecture continuum unity, and so on. Architecture repository is sometimes rendered as architecture knowledge base. Architecture library. The term perspective is the most likely to be translated in various ways. Sometimes it's translated as perspective, viewpoint, or point of view. They all essentially mean the same thing, all referring to the concept of a viewpoint. A viewpoint is like a diagram. It's a way of looking at things. There aren't usually other translations for this term. The term perspective can be expressed in different ways. Points of view. They all should remind you of it. That's the perspective we're discussing. Contract, or 合同 in Chinese, sometimes translated as agreement, negotiation plan, or sometimes negotiation strategy. Interval in English can be translated differently. It originally refers to a job interview, but sometimes it's translated as a casual interview. A formal meeting means essentially the same. To be clear, it's not really an interview. It's more akin to a job interview, or more precisely, an evaluation conducted face-to-face. TOGAF has compiled some typical questions. It's important to prepare thoroughly. TOGAF himself passed the exam through self-study, so it's definitely achievable. Regarding the certification's expiration, first, unlike the PMP, this certification, annual renewal and fee payment are required. As for the certification, naturally, the knowledge base is continuously updated. When are the exams available? Currently, exams are offered annually. With multiple testing windows throughout the year, you can schedule the exam for just any day, but you'll generally find a suitable date. That's the general idea of how the scheduling works. Test centers are available in all major cities nationwide. If you're in a smaller city, check for the nearest test center. Which city has the closest test center? How long until results are released? Usually, results are out in 2 to 3 days. Results are sent directly to your email. Alternatively, you can log into the official site to check your results there. Finally, I will now walk you through the complete registration process. step-by-step guide. My cousin booked directly via the official website. Of course, you can also book through the PCMAE Exam Center. First, log into the organization's website. Note that it's not the Chinese version, but the global official website. Once on the website, select certification, and then exam.
考试
You'll find an overview of the exam here. You can skip this part. Move straight to the bottom right. The TOGAF exam is also part of step 2. In the second step, you'll find a connect to PCMAE. This is actually a step-by-step redirection process. There are multiple entry points. Tick these 2 checkboxes. Then click to proceed. You'll be taken to PCMAE. You'll see a login screen. Now, on this screen, on the PCMAE authentication screen, you'll need to enter your personal details. This includes your name and address, your phone number, and most importantly, your email address. Double check your email for accuracy. Also, pay attention to your name. Your name should be for the first name field. You can use your English name or your Chinese name in pinyin. Once you've completed this, you'll find a button at the bottom of the personal info section labeled Proceed to PCMAE. This button is essentially a link that takes you to the PCMAE section. Once you click it, you'll be directed to the PCMAE page. The first thing you'll notice is, let's schedule the exam. This button here. Let's take a quick look at this. Different exam topics. Alright. These are based on TOGAF10 certifications, including ones for hobbyists and BA or Business Architecture. This certification, BA certification, currently offers only one level, foundation level. First, you need to decide which exam to take, BA or EA. As for which one to choose, I've already given my recommendation. So, if you're currently working on enterprise-wide architecture design, consider pursuing the EA certification. If you're aiming to advance in IT architecture and elevate your skills, you might want to consider the BA certification exam. When selecting your specialization, you'll find various levels available. You can take levels 1 and 2 separately, or as a combined exam. As you can see, there's a combined option for Part 1 and Part 2. This allows you to take both parts in a single sitting. Finally, let's check the language options. For each subject and level, you'll find a language selection. The available languages include Simplified Chinese, English, and French. You can select the Chinese exam if you prefer. However, looking at the current options, we can see that in the latest TOGAF exam, there isn't yet a Chinese language option available. No Chinese exam available. However, if you're taking the level 9 exam, then it's different. In that case, there is a Chinese exam. After choosing subjects, click Next. There are 3 options for exam locations. First option is. Then there's another. And finally, the last option. The other option is to select a test center. Typically, we opt for taking the test at a center. Taking the test at home, however, comes with specific environmental requirements. You need things like webcams and other equipment. The setup has to meet certain standards. So your home setup needs to meet this criteria. That's why most people choose to go to a test center. Test centers are available in various cities. Test centers partnered with various institutions. Next, after location, we'll select the exam date. You'll see some terms and conditions. Simply click OK for all of these. Let's move on. Now we're choosing the test center. Here, we can select a center close to where you live. Make your selection. You'll typically see several test centers. Major cities usually have more options. Here's where you choose your exam time. Regarding the available times, you'll notice some slots are grayed out. Only certain time slots can be booked. These available slots are color-coded, you see. When you hover over a bookable slot, your cursor will turn into a hand icon. You can book any of these slots. As you can see, there are designated booking periods. But overall, you'll have plenty of options to choose from. Let's say I'm taking an exam next January, right? So, basically, apart from weekends, you can book the exam on any weekday. That gives you quite a bit of flexibility. Let me show you how to choose a slot. I'll walk you through it. Now, for the time slot. Once you pick the date, you'll need to choose a time. Let's go with the 24-hour clock. Let's see if we have any other time slots to choose from. By default, it offers time slots like 9:30 to 10 o'clock or 10:45. The exams are scheduled for 1 p.m. in the afternoon. From 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., we have 3 time slots available. Sorry, I mean 4 time slots. Let's pick one of these slots. How about the 2 p.m. slot? Alright, let's go with this time. Now we can move on to the next step. Let's book the exam. Once you book the exam, you'll need to proceed to. Now, you'll want to double check the time and place. Okay, next. You'll also need to verify the exam subject, right? Make sure you got the correct subject and language for your test. Double check all these details. Now, about the course topic. It costs $360. That's $360. Let's move on. Now comes the fun part, payment. Remember what I said earlier. They don't accept Chinese payment apps yet. We'll go straight for the credit card option. You can use MasterCard or Visa. Just enter your card details. Then review your info one last time. hit the pay button, and you're done. That's the whole sign-up process in a nutshell. So that's how you register, folks. I will share a document with you all. Feel free to add me on WeChat, guys. I will send it to you as well. Lastly, any questions from you guys? It'd be great if you could follow my WeChat channel for anything about the certification exam. Feel free to DM me anytime. Okay.